The Shir is Leila Nishmas, Elimelech ben Levi Yitzchak, Yaakov ben Chava, Osher Shmuel Chaim ben Ephraim, Tziona, William and Helen, Rochel bas Yosef, David ben Abraham, Leila Nishmas, Tzvi Dov ben Chaim Pesach, Fred ben Richard, Yitzchak ben Sarah, Devorah bas Yitzchak, Avram ben Mordechai David, Reuven ben Shmuel, Shoshana bas Elchanan, Yeshua ben Shmuel, Chana Golda bas Yisrael, Chaim ben Fege, Yaakov ben Yitzchak, Mordechai Netzach ben Rivka, Zalman Leib ben Moshe, Amichai ben Yaakov, Leila and Nishmatam, moving up the Neshamas of William and Helen, Rochel bas Yosef, David ben Abraham, Tzvi Dov ben Chaim Pesach, moving on up, Yitzchak ben Sarah, Devorah bas Yitzchak, Fred ben Richard, Leila and Nishmatam. This week's Haftorah is just amazing. Parshat Shof'tim, the Haftorah Parshat Shof'tim, from the book of Yeshayahu. This is the fourth of the 7th Haftorahs of consolation that we read right after Tisha B'Av, how God consoles us. Shof'tim, Isaiah 51, I don't know what page it is in your book. What page would it be?
1 second. Shof'tim is on page 1199 in the stone.
The stone Chumash, the blue stone Chumash, 1199, Torah Shof'tim. And in the Birnbaum, it's, can you disconnect the microphone?
419. It is disconnected.
It disconnected, thank you.
419. 419
Thank you.
in the stone.
419 in the Birnbaum. 419 in the Birnbaum.
This one is 1199. Give me back there.
Okay, so the prophet says, Anoichi, Anoichi menachemchem. I, God, console you and comfort you. We know there are no extra words in Tanakh. Why does God say Anochi twice? Anochi, Anochi. I, God, and He who comforts you. Why is it written twice?
It's important.
Okay, everything is important. Why does God say I twice, Yechiel? Why? Well,
To emphasize it?
to emphasize, but more, yes, but more. The Anochi reminds Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Where does the Anochi come from? I'm Hashem, your God, who took you out from the Egyptian exile. Beautiful. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I'm Hashem, your God, that took you out of the Egyptian exile. And Anochi, and I'm the God that will also take you out from the present exile.
Yes.
So you see that?
Yeah.
Anochi Hashem Elokecha, that took you out from the Egyptian exile. And the second Anochi is that just like my track record is good from Egypt, the second Anochi, I am the same one that will redeem you from the current and present exile as well. So it gives a Jew what? Chizuk. And the long and bitter exile is going to come to an end. How do we know? But how do we know that he's right? Because God says, look at Egypt. God said, check my track record, right, Aviva? I, Anochi, took you out from Egyptian exile, so my record is good, and I'm also going to take you out from the present, current exile as well. Therefore, use the same word, Anochi, Anochi, right? God says, I have a track record. You can look it up. In the 10 Commandments, Anochi from the Mitzri exile and Anochi from the current exile as well. Now this Haftorah is always read during the month of Elul. The month of Elul is what? To wake us up. Look what the prophet says in verse 17. Awake, awake. Pasuk 17, it's Orvi, Kumu Yerushalayim. Wake up and smell the coffee.
Right.
It's later than you think. Now the Rambam says the reason we blow shofar is to what? To wake us up. We're all like walking zombies, says Rambam. The shofar is the alarm clock for the soul. And here he says in 17, hit orari, wake up. It's time to what? Focus on why we're here and what the message is. And he repeats it again in chapter 52. Look at chapter 52, please. Isaiah 52. Uri, Uri. In case you don't get the message, Uri, Uri. What does that mean? Wake up, wake up. The shofar is supposed to wake us up. The shofar, Mickey, is revelry Ta-ra-ta-ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. The shofar is a revelry for a slumbering soul.
Wow.
So verse chapter 51:1 says what, Elisheva? Wake up, wake up. How do you do that? Through the sound of the shofar. Therefore, we blow shofar the whole month of Elul. Right?
What is the connection between the Anochi and this is also repeats?
What? Why? Well, wake up, wake up. Why twice? It's a good question. Why? What's?
And the second one was
Also twice. Well, I can answer you that the first wake up is the month of Elul.
Yeah.
That blowing the shofar is only haminhag. The halacha is to blow it when? On Rosh Hashanah. So the first the first Uri, wake up, is speaking about the minhag to blow during the month of Elul. That's not halacha, that's a minhag. But that's only to tune us in to the real wake-up call, which is when? Rosh Hashanah. So, the shofar is a revelry for a slumbering soul. Well, that's what the prophet is saying over here. And amazing, he keeps coming back to the message of what? Of living in Yerushalayim, in Israel.
Yeah.
Chapter 51:1, what does he say? Awake, awake. Put on your strength, Zion. Put on your garments of splendor, O Jerusalem, the holy city. Yerushalayim Ira Kodesh. Avi, we have the schus to live in Yerushalayim Ira Kodesh. Right? And look what he says in verse 11. He's speaking about those Jews still living in Chutz La'aretz. Suru, suru, tzu'u misham.
Also twice.
Right? Turn away, get out of there. Where's there? I think it's Borough Park. Tameh. It's Tameh. Look at this. Sarah, you gotta email this to Chicago. Look at this. It's just amazing. Chapter 52:11. Tzu'u misham. Suru, suru. Turn away. Tzu'u misham means get out of there. Where's there? Chutz La'aretz. Tameh. Because Chutz La'aretz is what? It's Tameh. Does that include Borough Park?
Yes.
I don't know. But this is what the prophet is saying. Yechiel. Some people say, don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is made up. Okay? What? But it's amazing, the prophecy of today. But let's go back to the beginning of the Haftorah. What is our tafkid in life? The beginning of the Haftorah, chapter 51:16. Chapter 51:16. What is our tafkid in life? And Elul was supposed to focus on that, right? So look what the prophet says, incredible. Chapter 51:16. God says, Va'asim devarai bificha. I have what? Place my words in your mouth. Ubitzel yodi kisisicha, and with the shade of my hand, now God doesn't have a hand, but it's a metaphor. With the shade of my hand, I have covered you. What's the purpose? Lintoya shamayim. We are here to plant heaven on earth. Avi, that's our tafkid. Lintoya shamayim, lisoid eretz, v'leimo letzion amiyata. So our tafkid is to plant heaven on earth. How do you do that? How do you plant heaven on earth? How do you? To plant heavens on the earth. How do you do that? Well, in order to see how we do that, we have to go to the Parshat. Right? If you go to the Parshat, you'll see, to answer this question, we're going to ask what? Another question. In Parshat Shof'tim, this week's Parshat, in Devarim 20, Devarim 20, Pasuk 19, compares a human being to a tree of the field. Devarim 20, Pasuk 19, says you're not supposed to destroy a fruit tree, ki adam eitz hasadeh, because a human being is compared to what? To a fruit tree. to a tree of the field that bear. Now it's amazing, the morale points out that even the human body is shaped like a tree. Should I demonstrate? I don't know.
1042.
Careful, Rabbi.
Should I demonstrate? The morale points out that the human body is shaped like a tree. The body is the trunk, and the arms and the legs are what? Branches.
So what's wrong with that?
Nothing.
So where are the roots?
Right?
Your finger.
Right? So, how do you plant heaven on earth? Let's see. Ka'adam eitz hasadeh. We're supposed to plant godliness on the earth, and we're supposed to make like a tree. The tree has a trunk, the body, and the limbs of the body. The arms and the legs are like the branches, right? So, what's the message? The message is to plant heaven on earth. Just like a tree needs a lot of TLC to grow properly, if you don't talk to your plants, they're going to wither. It's been proven. Just like a tree and plants need TLC to grow properly, so a human being needs a lot of TLC in order to grow and develop properly. So we plant heaven on earth. You plant a tree, it gives off fruit, right? So we are supposed to continue to give fruit. Chesed, mitzvahs, and ma'asim tovim, we're supposed to produce. Now, just like a tree lives on even after the owner is gone. A person plants an apple tree, right? It continues to produce apples even when the one who planted the apple tree, Yechiel, is dead, continues to produce apples or fruit. So that's a dugma, a human being supposed to plant seeds that will continue to give fruit even when he's gone. Mitzvot, the chesed that he does, the kindness that he sets in motion, right? The mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim, on and on. Just like a fruit tree continues to give fruit even when the owner is dead. So when we do mitzvot, we do acts of loving kindness to our fellow human beings, it has repercussions. We plant the seed, right, and we invest properly and wisely. It continues to pay dividends even after we are made the transition. Moving on up after 120. Let's not be too in a hurry to get there, right? After 120. But this is how to plant heaven on earth. Now, at the beginning of the Parshat, Shof'tim is always read the month of Elul. Now, it starts off again, who knows Hebrew here? Shof'tim, it's Devarim 16, Pasuk 17. Devarim 16, Pasuk 17, Pasuk 18.
17.
Devarim 16, verse 18.
Okay.
Shof'tim v'shotrim titein lecha. Is that proper grammar, Yechiel? Shof'tim v'shotrim, it should have said titnu lachem. You start off with the plural, Chanoch. Shof'tim v'shotrim. Judges and policemen is the plural. Reb Nachum, why does it switch to the singular? Titein lecha. You hear my question? If you start out with the plural, why do you switch to the singular in the middle of a sentence? Shof'tim v'shotrim. Judges and policemen is in plural. Titein lecha. It should have said what? Titnu lachem.
He's speaking like the one person.
The message is that the month of Elul, we all have to judge and police the guy in the mirror. So Shof'tim v'shotrim. Everyone has to be a judge and a policeman over lecha, over the individual. Now, how do you do that? How do you judge and police yourself? All right? How do you do that? Introspection. Yes, but the Torah gives me the method, right? It's all here.
Okay.
Right after that, the Torah says, "Lo sita lacha asherah." Don't plant for yourself an asherah tree. Lo tokim lacha matzeva, and don't set up for yourself a monument. What has that got to do with the price of tea in China? You start off saying police and what? Judge yourself, and all of a sudden you change the subject. By the way, don't plant any Asherah tree on Temple Mount, and don't set up a matzeva. What does A got to do with B, Ray? Lo sita lecha Asherah. Don't make yourself into an Asherah. Asherah is a very tall tree. Lo tokim lecha matzeva. Don't act like you're high and mighty, a stuck-up monument, a stuck-up tree. If you want to judge and police yourself, the first thing you have to do is get off your high horse. Don't act like an Asherah. Don't act like a stuck-up matzeva. A little bit of humility. The word lecha seems to be superfluous. Don't turn yourself into a matzeva, stuck up high and mighty. Right? Show some humility. And that's the way to begin the process of judging and policing yourself. You can't judge yourself if you're stuck up like a tall Asherah or matzeva tree. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Then the Torah moves on and speaks about a person cannot be convicted unless testimony of two witnesses. Testimony of two witnesses. Devarim 17:6. It has to be the testimony of two witnesses. Devarim 17:6. Now, some people say, what's it all about? Witnesses can only be what? Men. Women are not accepted as witnesses in a court of law. Isn't that very strange, Nechama? Is that discrimination? No. Shirley, it's not. I'll show you that it's not discrimination.
I thought it was permitted to be a witness in a divorce.
One second. There are exceptions. But as a rule, women are disqualified from testifying in front of a bezdin. The question is why? The answer is the same reason that a king of Israel is not qualified to testify either. Is that discrimination? Golda, is it discrimination? So the Mefarshim explain, just like a king, it's below his dignity to go to a court and be cross-examined. Remember Dragnet sitting under the spotlight? It's below his dignity. So Mefarshim say a woman is like a queen, Bas Melech. Tillim 45 refers to every Jewish daughter as a Bat Melech. One second, please. 1 second. Tillim 45 calls every Jewish woman a Bat Melech. Kwinky dinky, Tillim 45:14. So please, so just like what? A king is not qualified, a king of Israel. You don't call him as a witness because it's below his dignity. So same thing, says the Mefarshim, every Jewish woman is a Bas Melech, and it's below her dignity to drag her in front of a court and to have her what? Cross-examined and interrogated. John, you know that? Because he came today. So it's not discrimination. She's in good company. The king of Israel is also not qualified to be a witness. Now, of course, there are exceptions. A woman is believed to say she went to the mikvah. She's believed to say that what she bought kosher food. Because if there's no need for public testimony, a woman is believed. It's just a public testimony in a court of law that's below her dignity to suffer a cross-examination and interrogation. And just like a king is not called to do that, so is a lady not called to. But in cases of Eid Echad Neman B'Yisurin, in cases where there's no need for public testimony, there a woman's testimony at Yechiel, of course, is believed. So people don't know the truth, what's going on over here, right? People don't know. What?
How is the non-public testimony?
Eid Echad Neman B'Yisurin. You believe your wife went to the mikveh? Maybe she didn't go. You believe your wife bought kosher food? Maybe she bought Frank Pertu chicken. They're cheaper than, you know. How can you trust your Eid Echad Neman B'Yisurin? Wherever there's no need for public testimony, of course a woman's testimony is believed. Not just in a court of law, yes?
So what happens, in other words, could that make a guilty person of a murder, God forbid, go free because there were several women saw it,
Right.
but no man saw it?
Right, so that's a good question. He doesn't go free. He's not executed. So on their testimony, they have to come to court. He doesn't go free. He's not executed, but he's held in jail. He's held in prison. Yes?
How can a woman be accused of something then if she can't testify?
She can't testify in a public court of law because it's below her dignity. If she's accused, then the witnesses can testify against her, but not lady
But
witnesses.
she can't speak.
What do you mean she can't speak?
You're saying
I'm not saying it. I'm telling you what the halacha is, okay? But it's not. It's the same way. If a king of Israel, can a king of Israel be a witness? Avram. No. Why not? So every Jewish girl is a bas melech, the daughter of a king. So says King David in chapter 45, and it's the same reason. It's not discrimination. Right? A judge also can't be a witness. A judge also not below his dignity. Right? It's below his dignity. Yes?
You just said that if two women testify that, a man murdered someone.
Right. So the man is not executed. He's put in prison, yes.
Yeah, so that is a case of women testifying.
Okay, but you can't execute the person on that.
Okay, so
Right?
that's an exception to the rule.
Right. So anyway, the Torah goes on and says, appoint the king over you. Soim tosim alecha melech, Devarim 17:15. Devarim 17. There's a positive mitzvah to appoint a king. Did you know that? This week's Parshat. Just like there's a mitzvah to put on tefillin, just like there's a mitzvah to blow shofar shana, Devarim 17:15 says there's a positive mitzvah to appoint a king. So the question is, when the Jewish people asked the king in the days of Shmuel Hanavi, why was God so upset? Why was God angry? In the book of Samuel 1, it's a mitzvah. Why should God be upset? It's a mitzvah, Malka.
Because it wasn't the right time.
Oh. Why wasn't it the right time? So that's the question. Why wasn't it the right time? And why was God upset? So to answer this question, I'm going to ask another question. Remember back at the burning bush, Sarah? Remember? God made Moses an offer that he seemingly couldn't. I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. God said, I'm going to make you the redeemer and the lawgiver. You'll get 2 paychecks. You'll be the redeemer, check Exodus 4, and the lawgiver. 2 paychecks and 2 pensions. And Moshe said no. So Rashi said, why did Moshe refuse God to become lawgiver and redeemer? So Rashi says, because Moshe was afraid that his older brother, Aaron, who was the leader until this time, would be upset and resent him. That his kid brother is taking over. Moses was gone for many years. Who was the leader of the Jewish people in the swine pits in Cairo? Who? Aaron. All of a sudden, the kid brother comes and says, what? Take a powder, I'm taking over. He was afraid that what, Avi? That his older brother would have tsar and anguish. And therefore, he was justified in refusing God's double paycheck. Wow. Only when God said to him, Abraham, V'samach belibo, not like you think. Your brother is happy for you. He doesn't resent you. He has no anguish and pain. V'samach belibo, what does that mean? He's happy in his heart, because God can see the heart. Only when he got that guarantee did Moses take the double job. So you see that what? That what? If my mitzvah is going to cause pain and anguish to a fellow Jew, God says, I don't need your mitzvah. And that's what Malka said over here. She was right. She said, Shmuel HaNavi was still very much alive. He gave his entire life to the Jewish people. Now they said to him, we don't want you, we want a king. He felt terribly hurt and rejected. What am I, a doormat? God felt the pain of Shmuel HaNavi. He felt his anguish and rejection. And therefore God was upset as well. What a powerful message. Mitzvah, yes. but make sure my mitzvah doesn't cause pain and anguish to a fellow Jew. They should have waited until Shmuel HaNavi dies and then ask for a king. So what a powerful message here, right? Don't be frum on Yenim's places. Who knows Yiddish here?
Don't be from
On Yenim's places. Maddie, you know that? No?
someone else's sofa.
She knows, right? Powerful message over here in the book of Parshat Shof'tim. Now, the Torah goes on here and tells us, Tomim tia Hashem Elokecha. Devarim 18:13. How do you know you're not allowed to go to a soothsayer? How do you know you're not allowed to go to a crystal ball lady?
Or an astrologer.
An astrologer. Devarim 18:13 says, Tomim tia Hashem Elokecha. You shall be wholehearted with Hashem your God. What does that mean? See Devarim 18:13. Tomim tia Hashem Elokecha. You shall be completely devoted and wholehearted in Hashem. So Rashi says, walk with Him in wholeheartedness. Don't try to find out the future. Whatever happens to you, kabel b'tmimut, accept it wholeheartedly. Of course, you have to try to do the best that you can do, right? But in the end, you have to know that it's all up to the big boss. So therefore, a Jew is not permitted to go to a soothsayer, even though sometimes they're right, because it's a positive mitzvah only to what? Put your faith and trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Like King Saul did.
What? No, King Saul, that's the problem. There was something else. That's another sin. There he went to the witch of Endor to conjure up a spirit of a dead person. That's even a worse crime. To confront, to bring up the spirit of the dead is a capital punishment. That's worse than this. Just going to a soothsayer like Gene Dixon, you only transgress a positive mitzvah, only. But to go to a seance, a real seance, to conjure up the spirit of a dead person, that's a capital punishment. So the question is, Shaul HaMelech was an Orthodox king, wasn't he? Yeah. Maybe Haredi too. How in the world can he go to the witch of Endor to conjure up the spirit of the dead Shmuel HaNavi? That's a capital offense. So what's the answer?
Was this before the instance with the Amalek?
What do you mean before? Let me tell you when this happened. Shaul HaMelech was going to battle against the PLO the next day, right? Operation Peace for Galilee. What was it called? Operation Tzuk Eitan. He was going to commit the IDF to attack the terrorists. Many Jewish soldiers' lives hung in the balance. Should I attack today, tomorrow? He consulted the Urim V'Tumim. It didn't answer him. He consulted Nevi'im. They were not answered. God tuned him out. What's the greatest mitzvah in the Torah, Yechiel? Staying alive, staying alive. Pekuach nefesh, docha kol haTorah kula. To commit IDF soldiers, to put them in harm's way. Gambling with lives of IDF soldiers is pekuach nefesh. If you can eat on Yom Kippur for that, you can consult the witch of Endor. Nechama. If an IDF soldier's life is in jeopardy, you're supposed to eat on Yom Kippur and break the Shabbos. If you can do that, you can also consult the witch of Endor.
You're saying he was okay?
He did it okay because of pekuach nefesh. God didn't answer him through legitimate channels. Ein breira. How do you say that in English? Ein breira. He had no choice. Pekuach nefesh. Just like when your life is in danger, you have to eat on Yom Kippur. It's a mitzvah to eat on Yom Kippur when your life is in danger. So to commit the troops, to attack or not to attack, Shirley. Today, tomorrow, you're playing with the lives of the IDF soldiers. Do I do it or not? So therefore, he was permitted to what? to go to the witch of Endor, because the greatest mitzvah, John, staying alive. There are 3 exceptions: idolatry, murder, and sexual immorality. But besides those 3, if your life is in danger, then you're supposed to transgress and live.
Wow.
I'll tell you an amazing story in the Chama. If I didn't hear it from Rabbi Soloveitchik, I wouldn't repeat it. I heard it from him, and he heard it from his Zayde, Rab Chaim. Or else I wouldn't repeat it. It was Kol Nidre night. Rab Chaim Soloveitchik got in front, he gave a clap in the bima. We're not going to say Kol Nidre. A Jewish communist was arrested by the Tsar's police, and they're going to, you know what a Jewish communist was? A Jewish communist?
Whoa. Yeah. Self-hating Jew.
Self-hating Jew. Please hear this. If I get emotional, please, you'll excuse me.
Yeah.
A Jewish communist was arrested right now. He's being held in the Tsar's police. Now, the Tsar's police were notorious for taking bribes. And if you give them enough money and jewelry, they'd let out the Jewish prisoner. Otherwise, he's dead. The Siberia, he's dead. Rav Chaim Soloveitchik got in front of the beam and said, we're not going to say Kol Nidre, it's Yom Kippur night. Everybody go home. Bring me all the money and jewelry that you have. You're carrying on Yom Kippur, and bring it in front of the bima. We're not going to say Yom Kippur. We're not going to daven until you do that. So people were shocked. Go home, Yom Kippur, desecrate Yom Kippur, carry your money and jewelry, bring it here to me. So people were shocked. Who's in jail? Lubavitcher Rebbe, who's in jail? A renegade Jew. He said, I don't care. A Jew is a Jew. So he waited. People came. Rav Chaim Soloveitchik himself, who told the story, his grandson, Rav Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik, took the money and jewelry on Yom Kippur night. He carried it to the police station, and he redeemed this Yid who was a turncoat, a communist. Doesn't matter. A Jew is a Jew. You desecrate Yom Kippur for any Jewish person. That's the mile of what? Pekuach nefesh docha kol haTorah kula. That Rav Chaim himself went to the police station carrying the money and the jewelry on Yom Kippur to redeem this communist Jew from the Tsar's police, who were notoriously corrupt. Nothing has changed in 100 years, right? The Russian police are still very corrupt. But this is the story how Shaul, if Rav Chaim Soloveitchik could go with money on Yom Kippur to carry, then Shaul HaMelech can go to the witch of Endor to save what? Nechama should save Jewish lives. What a powerful message. I'll tell you more. Nechama, can I tell you more? If I get emotional, you'll excuse me. It was Kol Nidre night. Kol Nidre night, right? The whole shul is waiting for the Balatanya. The holy of shul is Alma Melida. He doesn't show up. They're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting. Kol Nidre night. So a frantic search in a little town in Lida. Where do they find the Balatanya, Avram? This unwed Jewish girl had given birth. An unwed Jewish girl had an affair with a Shegitz. She gave birth. Yom Kippur night. So no one wants to know from her. The Balatanya himself cooked soup for her. On Yom Kippur night, cooked soup for her, and he spoon-fed her. They said, Rebbe, she's a sinner. She has relations with a goy. She has a child out of marriage. He says, what are you talking about? A Jew. A Jew. So he himself, he didn't ask his shamus. He could have asked one of his talmidim. He cooked the fire. In those days, it wasn't heat turn on the range. Right? He had to stoke the fire to heat the soup on Yom Kippur. And he fed her.
Wow, so special.
Where we have people like that today?
We do, we just,
For doing what?
we just don't know them.
No?
May we all
Right. Okay. What?
the
The Pintalayit, right? The Pintalayit, right? In this week's Parsha, you have the Parsha, I'm telling it, current events in the Haftorah, but this is current events in the Parsha. I'm telling you, I couldn't make this up, Yechiel. If you go to the Devarim 20, Pasuk 1. Now sometimes the current events is more in the Parsha than the Haftorah. This is one of the weeks. We have a soldier on trial, Nebuchadnezzar. They're making his life miserable. Who did he kill? Who did he kill? They're sick. Look what the Torah says. Sarah, if you don't look inside, you're not going to believe me. Devarim 20, Pasuk 1. When you go out to war against your enemy. So Rashi says, who else do you go to war against your friend? It seems to be superfluous, Mickey. The Torah says when you go to war against your enemy. I don't go to... Oh, says Mickey, if Rashi lived today, maybe they might put him in jail. Oh. Rashi makes an amazing comment. On Devarim 20, Pasuk 1, Aloivecha. Who else do you go to war against? Your friend? Listen what Rashi writes. Don't forget they're your bitter enemy. Al terachem aleihem. Don't shoot him in the leg. Show them no mercy, because he damn sure ain't going to show you no mercy. Hear what Rashi HaKadosh is writing? It's not PC, Rashi HaKadosh. Al terachem, who are you showing mercy? On bitter terrorists? This soldier in Hebron should get a medal. Instead, they're making his life miserable.
But I thought it's that they...
Al terachem aleim, says Rashi, because they sure not going to show you no mercy. Rachmonim shel tipshim, the Rabban calls it Rachmonim shel tipshim. What? Unbelievable. I hope Rashi, good thing Rashi's not alive today, Yechiel, because he'd be in trouble with Haaretz and the lefties. I think, right? They put it right. Right? Now I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. So the Jews go to war. They're supposed to get a pep talk from the IDF chief chaplain, the Kohen Mashiach. And look what he says to them. In Devarim 20, Pasuk Gimel, V'omar aleim Shema Yisrael. He says to the IDF soldiers before they go to Gaza, Shema Yisrael. How come it says Shema Yisrael? So Rashi says, Afilu ein bechem schut elo Shema bilvad kidei she'atem Yoshia eschem. Even if the IDF soldier has only one mitzvah, he said Shema Yisrael today, that makes him worthy that God will protect him.
Wow.
And therefore, Shema Yisrael, even you have no schusim, you read Shema today, that's enough for the big boss to protect you. How much God cherishes IDF soldiers.
Wow.
And then he tells them, this is the IDF chaplain. Look at Pasuk 4. You have it, verse 24. Ki Hashem Elohechem ahoylech imachem. Hashem, your God, goes in front of you, liyilachem lechem aloivechem, to make war for you against your enemies, to rescue you. This is what the IDF chaplain has to say. And 2 years ago, Operation War, what was it called? Tzuk Eitan? Colonel Wiener, a religious colonel, said this to his troops. Meretz got a hold of it. Oy, Meretz, what? How dare you quote the Torah to IDF soldiers? You're brainwashing them. Meretz, can you imagine? The colonel, a religious colonel, is leading his troops into battle to take care of Abu Mamzer. So he quotes this pasuk verbatim. Hashem, your God, is going in front of you to make war against your enemies, to rescue you. Meretz, there was a reporter there. They told it to Haaretz and Meretz, don't ask. How dare he say that?
Wow.
He's brainwashing our youth.
Wow.
Malka, it's sick and getting sicker.
Yeah.
That's true.
What?
How could it get any sicker?
What? Right?
I think she's going to die before.
Now, this Colonel Wiener, it held up his promotion.
What?
But Baruch Hashem, it came through. It held it up because... So he had to explain himself.
Oh, please.
And then they cleared him. They made him a general, okay? But he was Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. He quoted this pasuk before he led his troops into Gaza. Now, an IDF uniform. Rav Soloveitchik, Zechet Tzadik Levracha. There's halacha, Yehuda, that before you daven, you have to have a guf noki and a beged noki. You're not allowed to daven unless your body and your clothing are clean. You know that? You're not allowed to. If your body is soiled or your clothing is soiled, you're not allowed to daven. So this IDF soldier wrote a letter to Rav Soloveitchik, Zechet Tzadik Levracha. If I get emotional, you'll excuse me. He says, my job is I service tanks in my unit. I fix and I service tanks in my unit. And my uniform is full of grease and grime. It comes time to daven mincha. Do I have to change my uniform? Because it's full of grime and grease from the tanks that I'm servicing. Rav Soloveitchik writes back to him, change your uniform. It's Big Day Kodesh. Here is Golda, right? Big Day Kodesh, what are you changing your uniform? Those are holy clothing that you're wearing. The uniform, the IDF Big Day Kodesh. You hear? Rav Soloveitchik, Zechet Tzadik Levracha. You don't have to change your uniform. No, it's Big Day Kodesh. And therefore you can daven mincha in your greasy clothing. Imagine that an IDF soldier should write a letter to Rav Soloveitchik, but he's allowed to daven mincha, Chanoch, in his greasy, grimy uniform. Imagine, Mi ka'amcha Yisrael, who is like your nation Israel, a holy nation. All right? So hopefully that this poor soldier in Hebron, I read in the paper that the forensic coroner is going to testify that when he shot the Mechabel, he was already dead. You hear this?
Yeah.
He was already dead. That's what I read in the paper. So therefore, hopefully they'll let him go. But the whole thing was a farce.
So he was a scapegoat because...
It was a scapegoat. Because B'Tselem was filming it, right? They used him as a scapegoat. Right? Now, how did they know to film just then? Maybe the whole thing was a setup. Maybe the filmer sent this Mechabel. Right? How did he know to film just then? Right?
He was an Arab guy.
Who know what? Yeah.
Wow.
So a B'Tselem guy filmed it, right? Yeah. Right. So hopefully they're going to let him off, right? Hopefully they're going to let him off, right? Hopefully. The end of the Torah, the end of this week's Parsha, speaks about the Eglah Rufa, very strange service. If you find a murder victim in Israel outside of a city, Moshe, you don't know who killed him. So the Sanhedrin have to measure the closest city to the murder victim, and they have to bring a calf and break its neck, and they wash their hands over the broken neck of the calf, and the Sanhedrin guys say, our hands did not spill this guy's blood. So the Talmud Saita says, these old rabbis with the long white beards, we think that they're what? Bugsy Siegel? Louis Lepke? Surely they have to say, our hands didn't spill this guy's blood. Who would accuse of the Ziknei Bezdin, these old rabbis, Avi, with the long white beards, of being what? Murder Incorporated. So why do they have to say, our hands didn't spill this guy's blood? So the Talmud says, what they mean is, we didn't see this guy, and we didn't send him away without food and an escort. Because if a stranger comes to town, and you don't give him a meal and an escort, and something happens to him, the Sanhedrin is responsible. Very strange, Nechama. Why should that be? Why should that be? How does Achnosas Orchim protect the stranger?
It says in our davening in the
How?
we say in the morning.
How?
I forgot.
Now, the mitzvah Achnosas Orchim consists of 3 parts, Shirley. Eshel, Achila, Shtia, and Leviah. The mitzvah Achnosas Orchim, 3 parts. To give the guest food, drink, and to give him an escort. Now, the Rambam says, what's the most important part of the mitzvah? I would say what? I would say the food and drink, right? But the Rambam says no. Avram, you hear this? The Rambam says that the most important part of the mitzvah is the Leviah, to escort the guest out the front door at least 4 amot. Now I'll take the steak and chips. Why does Holy Rambam say, Abraham, that the most important part of the mitzvah, Hachi Choshuv, is Leviah? Why is that? So the Rambam says something, I'll put it in my language, okay? I'll put it in my language. You invite a guest for dinner or lunch. If you give him Chinese food, in 12 minutes he's hungry again. A lot of MSG, right? Even if you give him a steak, in 4 hours he's hungry again. So the food and the drink wears off after a while, John. But when you escort him out the front door, says Rambam, you're giving kavod to the neshama.
Wow.
You're giving kavod to the neshama. That's not like a Chinese lunch. On and on, on and on, on and on. When you escort the guest out the front door, you're giving kavod to his godly soul. I enjoyed your company, and I want you back again. That's kavod for the neshama that doesn't wear off. And the Maral takes it a step further. Al pi Kabbalah, when you escort a guest out, you're giving his neshama an aura. Abraham, how do you say aura in Hebrew? Aura. The English word or. The English word or, Avi?
Comes backwards.
Aura.
Backwards. Or is Hebrew. Aura is
Aura.
Or is English.
Says the Holy Maral. You're giving the neshama a glow. And that will protect him from muggers.
Wow.
But if you don't give him an escort, says the Maharal, you're not giving him that aura. He doesn't have that spiritual glow. He's vulnerable from muggers.
Wow, wow.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah,
The Maharal Mi Prague.
Yep.
It rings a bell with me, Reb Nachum. I grew up in Brooklyn. And in the New York City subway system, there was a lot of crime. And I remember, must be 45 years ago, there was a sign in the subways. When you're walking, don't walk forlorn. Walk with an upright posture. Don't walk forlorn. The New York City subway police, because they said that who do the muggers look for? Someone that looks forlorn. He looks vulnerable. So perhaps that's what the Maharal had in mind. When you give someone an escort, Avram, you're making him feel good. You appreciated my company. You're giving me an aura. I'm going to walk with my head erect. I'm not going to be a victim. The muggers will look for somebody else. But if someone, good riddance, right? He walks out, he feels a little bit rejected. He might be forlorn. He might be a victim, Avi, of a mugger. So the New York subway police, maybe they learned this Maharal, I don't know. Is it possible? Not joking, the New York Police Department had a huge Jewish population. They're called the Shomrim Society. There were many religious Jewish cops, I knew some of them. And they had minyanim there in the police station. They must have learned this Maharal. They had a Shomrim Society, they were called. And if you see the movie Fort Apache, Fort Apache in the Bronx. The desk sergeant is sitting with a big kippah. That's really true. Avram, Fort Apache, the Bronx. Fort Apache with Paul Newman. The desk sergeant had a big knitted kippah on his head. That's based on fact. In the 1970s. Gotta see the movie just for that. Yes?
Bob was an auxiliary policeman.
Go ahead.
Guarding the children churches.
Really?
Yes. He knew the man.
Right, yeah. The big mitzvah, right? The big mitzvah, Baruch Hashem, right. So anyway, so the Egla Arufa. So what do? You find this murder victim. You have to decapitate this poor calf. What does the poor calf got to do with it? What's love got to do? What does it got to do with it? Malka, what do you want from the poor calf? You break its neck.
It's symbolic.
Says the Zohar HaKadosh. You're sitting down.
No.
You remember the Headless Horseman? Who read the book, The Headless? I got everything from us. I'm telling you, they got The Headless Horseman by, what's his name? Washington. The Zohar says something incredible, Yechiel, that when you chop off the neck, you cut off the head of this calf, he runs around and he drops dead at the foot of the murderer.
Whoa. Is that true?
Wee wee. The Zohar HaKadosh says that. It's not voodoo. Somehow, supernatural, this decapitated calf runs around. Now, the ceremony has to be attended by the entire Jewish people. You look in Tractate Sota, the entire Jewish people have to assemble at this valley to witness this decapitation of the calf. The Zohar says because the murderer is going, everybody has to be there. So the calf runs around and doesn't fall until it drops dead at the foot of the murderer.
Wow.
Very interesting. All right? So, but you take a look, Malka. Today we hear about a murder, we turn the page, Nebuch. We turn the page and continue to drink the coffee in the morning. The entire nation of Israel had to come to a halt. You found a murder victim in Israel? It couldn't be business as usual, Ray. The great Sanhedrin had to leave their cushy offices in the Temple Mount and schlep out to Nowheresville to view this dead body and to measure. No one could go to school. Nobody could go to work. Everything came to a halt. It's not... A Jew was murdered. You can go on. The entire nation had to assemble in this valley to witness this ceremony of the broken calf. Because this way, it'll make an impression. Yeah. It can't be business as usual. A person is murdered and you just go on with life. The entire state of Israel in the ancient world and the days of the Tanakh came to a halt until they caught the murderer somehow by this supernatural way of this Egla Rufa. Today we become so desensitized. People are killed and we just... but it didn't used to be like that. It didn't used to be like that. This is the message of Egla Rufa, how each and every life is precious, right? And every person, even though you don't know him, has a tzelem Elohim, a chelik Elohim imal. It can't be business as usual. Right? We have to give cover to every person. Every person has a godly image in him. Right?
So if it says that only all Israel has to be there,
right,
not the Goyim, that must imply that
I think everybody has to be there. No, the guys who keep the Noahide religion are permitted to live in Israel legally. In the days of the temple and Tanakh, if a non-Jew kept the Noahide laws, he had halakhic citizenship rights to live here. Ger Toshav. Keep the 7, go to heaven, and keep the 7, you're halachically full citizen in the land of Israel. full citizen, even though you weren't Jewish, if you kept the Noachide law. So they also had to assemble. They're a citizen in every right. A non-Jew who kept the Noachide religion is a toshav, with all the citizenship rights in the ancient world are unheard of. An alien should have rights. If you're not a native, you're nothing. But in ancient Israel, Shirley, no. Any non-Jew that kept the Noachide religion was treated with the same courtesy and respect as what? As a Jew. It was unheard of in the ancient world, what they did to strangers.
Wish it was like that now.
Huh?
Should be like that
That's
now.
right. That's right. Yes?
Did they have a special nachala, or they lived anywhere they
What? No, they could live wherever they can afford to live, right?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to sell land to a pagan, but to a Noachide, you're permitted. It's incredible, Chanoch.
That sounds
To an idol worshiper, you can't sell land, but to a Noachide, incredible. Other religions say my way or the highway. All religions say that except the true religion. The true religion says Judaism for Jews and Noachidism for non-Jews. The oldest religion in the world, Sarah, was not Judaism. It was Noachidism. Noach and Adam didn't practice Judaism. Noach ish tzaddik, tamim. Abraham didn't practice until he was 99 years old. What did he practice? The oldest religion of mankind. Noachidism. Another religion, Judaism is so what's the word? Tolerant? Judaism.
It's tolerant.
Tolerant. All the other religions say my way or you're going to hell. All religions say, except the true religion. Accept the true religion, the Chama. Isn't that amazing? Right? So what a powerful message, how we have to respect all human beings. Right?
That's right, Rabbi.
All of us, what? Are created in the image of God. Yeah. Every human being. Adam and Chava were not Jewish, and they had a Tzelem Elohim. Torah says so clearly, right? Sunday is 9/11. So we have a special anniversary seer on 9/11 Sunday at 2 o'clock, Why Good People Suffer. So that's Sunday at 2. Thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom.